It's been a very long time since I posted my last video, but I still remember that I promised you that I was gonna show you how I installed my windshield. So I started by installing the gasket on the windshield, cutting it to length and gluing the two ends together with instant glue. I've seen many different ways of installing the windshield on the frame, and the most popular I think is when you install the gasket on the frame and then trying with plastic sticks and stuff to put the windshield inside. Well, for me that's unnecessarily hard, because the way I'm doing it is much easier for me, and I've done it many times before, so this is how I'm doing it. I took piece of cord and I put it inside the channel that is for the frame for the windshield. The two ends of the cord I left just hanging in the middle of the bottom end of the windshield. I used some soap water in the channel to make the whole process easier, because otherwise the rubber has too much friction and it's hard to pull it out. So with the rope inside the channel, I put the windshield on the frame. Again, I put some soap water. I made sure the bottom side, the long bottom side of the windshield goes into the right place. I mean, the frame falls right into the channel where I still had the rope inside. And that was the easiest part, because the whole windshield was still free. And then I tried to keep the windshield as far as I could down, and I started pulling out the rope. By pulling the rope out, I was pulling also the inner lip of the rubber around the lip of the frame, and this is what I'm talking about. I hope it makes sense. And I kept going this way, going up both sides. First the right side, around the corner, and the corner is the tricky part. The rubber is a little bit stubborn there, so I used more soapy water. Again, I pushed the windshield down. I was pulling the rope in different directions so I don't damage the rubber. I wasn't pulling too hard. I used more soapy water, and slowly I passed around the corner. Once the top right corner was done, I did the same thing for the left side, because the corners are the hardest part, as they say. And I did exactly the same thing. I was pulling the rope left, right, up, down, just without too much pressure. Kept pushing the windshield down. Usually there must be a second person outside pushing the windshield down all the time, but with convertible cars it's easier because you have access to the windshield from inside. Once the corner was done, it was easy to do the last straight part. You can see here how the whole windshield can go in after the biggest part of the gasket was in place. Last couple of inches. And And that was it. The windshield was installed. I only had to put the lock in the channel. For the lock, I have a special tool that opens the channel, and in the meantime it puts the lock inside. This was the tool that I used for the rope. But a couple of months ago, when with Carlos we worked on another car, we installed another windshield, we figured out that soapy water and rubber hammer are much more convenient tools for this process. I wasn't worried too much about cutting it to the exact perfect length because I had to use the clip anyways to cover the two ends of the lock. And that was it. The whole process took not more than 25 minutes. For the glass on the doors, I decided to use urethane because when I pulled the windows out before, I noticed that there was just a little bit of friction holding them in place because the rubber that was in the truck was very old. So this time I used urethane, and I'm sure this is gonna hold them for a long time. I also installed the two bullet mirrors that I bought for the car. My original mirrors were not in a very good shape, so I just decided to buy new ones. And suddenly it started not only looking like a car, but also feeling like a car. Meanwhile, Carlos continued with his magic. He started water sanding the car with 2000 sandpaper. As I said before, there were a couple of spots on the clear coat that weren't perfect. Also, the car was very sensitive to scratches. Even with our nails, we were able to do little scratches, so it was absolutely necessary the car to be wet sanded and then buffed. For this reason, I had to remove all the chrome trim that I already had installed because I didn't think it was gonna be on the way, but this can only show you how little experience I have in this area. But anyways, it wasn't hard to remove it, so Carlos was able to work normally on the exterior. And in the meantime, I started working on the interior. Under the carpet I put silver insulation on the floor and on the firewall. I cut around all the hoses. On this side there is the drain for the battery tray, and on the other side there is the drain for the air box for the heater, the one that I made myself. I had to cut around them. And this is what it looked like when the whole installation was done. And it was time for the carpet. I decided to go for a red color. Of course, like most of the things in this car, it was DIY, do it yourself. In the meantime, Carlos continued with the buffing, or at least I thought so. We'll see later why. And I started gluing it on top of the insulation. For most of the parts I was just cutting pieces of carpet with the approximate size, and then when I was gluing them in place I was cutting around the items that were on my way. That was the first piece that went in. I was using trim glue. We use it all the time in the limousine building and it's really nice and strong. It holds forever. Carlos was still buffing, or at least he was pretending to, because this is what he was doing behind my back while I thought he was working, making fun of me. Yeah, he's a good guy. So piece by piece I kept putting together the puzzle. Actually I was following a sketch that I found online of a carpet for Spitfire. It helped me a lot because I didn't know what did the pieces look like. These here, the wheel wells, they're supposed to be wrapped in black vinyl, but I thought they were gonna look better in carpet, and I think they really do. I test fitted the cover to see if all the exposed part of the wheel well is covered by the carpet. It looked good. For the big piece under the seats and around the tunnel, I had to do a little bit of sewing. There was no other option because there are so many shapes and different curves there that it was impossible to use a flat piece. I had to do uh, binding around the whole middle piece anyway, so I had to use the sewing machine. I was debating whether I should use a red binding around or black, and I thought black would look good on the red as accent, so I did black binding, and I think it looks good. I think I've said before that I spent 16 years in the sewing industry, so I'm familiar with sewing, and actually that's my specialty. Everything else on this car was new for me, but I learned, I think. And once this piece was inside, the car started looking really nice. I was surprised. I was worried about my choice of red carpet, but it looks nice. For the pieces that go in the footwells, I use the same technique, like cut in place technique, but I didn't glue them in because first I had to do binding around. So I cut them to the right shape, then I put binding on the sewing machine. After that I glued them in place. The transmission cover was the hardest part to wrap in carpet because of its specific shape. So there was a lot of pattern making and sewing involved. But again, I cut the pieces around the cover and then I stitched wherever I needed to stitch. With all the pieces already cut, I went to the sewing machine, I put another puzzle together. Again, I put black binding around the whole cover and around the opening for the part that looks like a tray, even though there's gonna be the H bracket there and it's gonna hide it, but I still wanted it to look nice. I test fitted it and it looked okay, but before I glued it I had to wrap the actual tray. And with the tray wrapped in carpet, I sprayed trim glue all over the cover and on the cover for the cover. Well, and then I glued it. I oversprayed some glue on the carpet, but later I cleaned it up.
Okay, before I install it though, I will have to do something else. And this is I've got my new starter. So before I put the cover on, it would be a good idea to change the starter because I have access to the bolts right now. So I'm gonna do that first. And by the way, I got my master cylinder for the brakes because the other one was just temporary. And I've got a whole bunch of other parts.
I don't need to show you the whole process. I've done that before and you've seen it, so I just took the old one out, put the new one in, and I tested it. Worked perfect.